Hello, I'm Clint Walker, and this is Real Estate Appraiser Secrets. And today we're going to talk about the difference between as-is and subject-to appraisals. So, you may know what I'm talking about when I say as-is and subject-to appraisals, but if you don't, what it is at the end of your appraiser is going out to inspect the property and ultimately to give an opinion of value, and that opinion of value is based on either the as-is condition of the property on the day they inspect it, or they can do the opinion of value subject to certain things happening. For instance, right now I'm driving to appraise a new construction property that will not be finished when I get there. It's probably only going to be in framing when I get there. Like, there won't even be plumbing, there won't be insulation, there won't be drywall, there won't be exterior wall coverings. So I'm going to slow down right now because here's my cop friend waiting to get me. And so this place is not going to be finished. It's going to be maybe 60% finished when I get there. And so what's going to happen at the end of that report is I'm going to put my opinion of value on it based on closed sales, but that value is going to be, quote, subject to the property being completely finished at some point. And once the property is completely finished, the lender is going to send me an order to do a final inspection, and I'm going to go back to the property, take new pictures, and at that time the property should be completely done. If for some reason it's not completely done, they're going to have to do the whole they're going to have to do the final inspection process over again, and that's relevant for you if you're a buyer's agent, because every one of those final inspections is going to cost money, probably somewhere between $150 and $200 based on the appraiser, maybe even more, who knows. So bear that in mind. I've been asked in my classes before why these things can't be coordinated in a way that the appraiser only goes out for the initial inspection once the property is done, and they can be. I have an order that I'm going to be doing later this week where the lender has specifically requested to do that, for us to do that. But the problem is, if you think about the dynamics of a new construction transaction, especially with these construction builders, or with maybe these high production builders, there's me, the appraiser, and I'm hired to do the inspection. There's the appraisal. There's the lender who's hiring me. There may be an AMC involved who is communicating between me and the lender. On the builder side, there's the listing agent who's sitting in an office, maybe somewhat involved in the transaction. Most of them are usually not as involved as I'd like them to be. Then there's the project manager, who's probably got 15 properties they're building at the same time, 15 houses they're building at the same time. And then underneath them, there's all these subcontractors that they're trying to manage, which is, I mean, you can imagine it's like herding cats. So there's really a lot of complexity involved in just saying, hey, Mr. Appraiser, schedule your inspection when the house is finished. You can imagine the number of people that have to be communicated to, the number of people that communication goes between in that process. It just is not very efficient and not very realistic to try to coordinate that, especially because this is the most important part that I almost forgot to add. A lot of times, these builders like to close this property within days of being finished, because from a construction side, the property is at its most expensive for them to carry once it's completely finished. Usually they've got a loan involved in their construction, and they've maxed out their draws at that point. So they don't want to be carrying this property for any amount of time once they've completely finished it. And so even from their perspective, they don't want to have to be dealing with the appraiser and whatever our requirements are, whatever issues we might throw up in the process at that point. They would I haven't heard this from them directly, but I have been involved in construction myself, and I'm assuming, based on my own experience and everything that I am involved in, it's better for them to have us out early so we can get that out of the way. As an example, I've done one for one of my production builders where at the initial inspection, I discovered that this was an FHA. The buyer was trying to FHA finance this. This property had like one of the large colonial natural gas transmission lines running through it. So the property was extra large to accommodate this easement that the gas line company had to have, but the FHA has their own requirements about how close the dwelling and any improvements can be built to that easement. And it's the appraiser who is supposed to discover that. Now, ideally, the builder would know about this before they started building the property, but ultimately, it is the appraiser who is supposed to discover it, I think. Or at least I take that responsibility on myself when I'm doing it, right or wrong. So when I go out to do my initial inspection, that's exactly what I found. I pulled a plat, I see where the transmission line is. The house has been constructed, and so I'm there at the property. I can see the flags for the easement. I can easily like step it off or pull out my tape measure and measure it to see how close the property is to those flags. And this property was built too close to them to qualify for FHA financing. And so I had to bring that up. Now, to me, it's better for the lender that they know this at that initial inspection, so that the lender and their agent and the buyer and their agent can pivot and make whatever changes need to be made to accommodate this, because the house can't be changed and the gas line can't be changed. So only the parties can change what they're doing. And so I discovered that for them at my initial inspection. If that waited till my final inspection 3 days before closing, you can imagine what a disaster that is for the parties involved. So anyway, all of that to say, it happens a lot with new construction, but we go out before it's done, we do the appraisal subject to the house being finished. FHA has more strict requirements for all dwellings, so it could be that the appraiser goes out for an FHA inspection on an existing home, and it's got issues like a structural concern or moisture in the crawl space or some issue they see in the attic. They write this problem up in the report, and they condition the appraisal. Let's say their opinion of value is $400,000. They condition the appraisal. It's $400,000, subject to an inspection of these concerns, or subject to the moisture in the crawl space being remediated. And what that means is the lender cannot finalize that loan, and therefore the parties can't close the transaction until these issues are resolved. So that is, I'm describing to you, you may have had sort of frustrating encounters with appraisers in the past. That is some of the power that appraisers have, is to hold that thing up until that's resolved. But it is in service of the lender client. And, it's unfortunate that the buyer and the seller get caught up in this, but in our real estate industry, where so much of the opportunity that the parties have to liquidate this huge asset or to purchase this major asset that's going to allow them to garner equity while they live there, it's all facilitated by the lending industry and them being willing to finance these properties. And the appraisal is an important part of that. And the appraisal is conducted to protect the lender's interest so that whole industry can exist. So I want to just sort of drop that as as a video for you. Like, that's, to me, it's helpful to understand that it's not something you maybe run into every day. I think the vast majority of appraisals, at least on existing construction, go on as is. But I've seen it firsthand where it causes a lot of confusion and frustration, where the appraisal comes in subject to, and nobody's ever seen that. And As a side note, if it's an existing property and it's subject to repairs, the appraiser might not be very specific about what to do in those repairs because we're not experts. Our expertise in that regard is really generally not much more expert than even an agent. So if I see structural problems, my condition that I'm going to put on the appraisal is probably going to be subject to you bringing in an expert, an actual structural engineer, or just some other qualified professional to provide a letter or sign off and say, hey, here's the repair that needs to happen, or no repairs necessary at all. And you can send that to me, and that will sometimes be enough to take care of my condition that I put on the appraisal. I get that, I sign off and say, yeah, lender, this is fine, I'm satisfied, the underwriter can be satisfied, and y'all can move on down the road. Other times it might just be an example of a structural issue can be that some exterior wall covering, like flashing or siding, has come off, and so now wood that's not supposed to be exposed to the elements is being constantly exposed to the elements. That can be a structural issue that I want repaired for the lender, and so the repair simply says make it so that that's not exposed anymore. So all you got to do is go find somebody to put some flashing up, or to put a piece of vinyl siding up that matches the, that's appropriate for the dwelling. And then it's done. And you call me back out and I come take a new photo and it's done. So these things don't have to get very complicated. Before I was ever an appraiser, I ran into this exact scenario where an appraiser called for repairs on the place my buyer was purchasing. I had never seen it before. Consequently, I'd never had any training on this specific scenario before, which is why I make these videos for you all and teach classes for you all to begin with, because I know that nobody's doing this. But I got this repair and I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to fix it. I had no idea how to get it fixed so that the appraiser would be happy. And this is one of these old school appraisers who didn't like talking to anybody. I couldn't get past his administrative assistant to talk to him. It took me many, many phone calls and a lot of effort to try. And when I finally did, he was like, man, just make it so that it's not there when I come back. I pointed out the problem. All you gotta do is make it so it's not there. Which sounds crazy, but that's all it was. So I'm telling you that now for your information going forward. These appraisal repairs don't have to be extreme. They don't have to be very complicated. We are identifying an issue and we're requiring you to fix it. And that's it. My reports say fix it in a workmanlike manner, which is essentially say either hire a professional or hire somebody who can make it as good as if a professional did it. Call me when it's done, and that'll be good enough. So I hope that's helpful. It's kind of a long video, but if I can, if you ever run into something like that and I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out. If you need an appraisal or professional measurement or a consultation, you can find me on appraiserpool.com. As always, I'm so appreciative that you watched and gave me a little bit of your time. And I appreciate that you're trying to make yourself better for our industry. And if you have any ideas for videos, feel free to drop it in the comments. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.